Hi everyone, this is Kyle with kayDbait. I wanted to make a video on how one person's actions or words can affect other things outside of what they're saying. Now, in the political realm, there are leaders that have political power. They have positions of, moral integrity, or at least they have people that follow them as if they do have, moral integrity, whether they do or not. And that's dangerous when it's not checked properly, which is the media's job to make sure things are kept fair. Journalistic integrity is also considered one of those things that has failed in the past because of greed or because of political or ideological agendas that they themselves have. So the whole system of trying to make sure everything's fair is kind of falling apart, and it has been for a long time. It may never have worked. I don't know. I wasn't around back then. But as of now, we have people that are inherently corrupt because they seek power and influence, and that is why they became a political player. And people in the media that are also enabling that behavior because they themselves want scandal, they want some kind of influence within their circles as well, in spheres of influence. So we have a system that is not being properly handled by the people in charge and not being properly investigated or reported on by the media. So we have a problem there. But that's not necessarily what this is about. This is more about how the things that the people in power, both politically and in the media, when they say something, how it affects the public. Because the public are also people. Everybody in every facet of the world is a human being, and they are fallible. They are either corruptible or influenced by outside sources, or even just wrong in their own right without necessary meddling. So when you have leadership that is comprised of people that can be or are corrupted, and the people that they're trying to get favor from, which is the voters or the viewers or the donors, you have it's not necessarily a power struggle, but there is one in charge and trying to get the other to give them what they want. And it's really a give and take, because the people at the bottom do want something as well. They want something in return. They want the political people in power to give them the things that they were promised for votes or for donations. And when you have people doing it for themselves, that's also kind of an easily corruptible thing. It's like, hey, I'll give you all money, or I'll give you all political favors or whatever if you give me what I need, so that I'll be in the position to do that for you. And I'm not saying that's a bribe, though certain types of donations really are, which is why super PACs have been under scrutiny for a while. But any kind of large donation has been, and lobbyists were literally, back when they first started, were people that waited in the lobbies of Congress and the Senate and all those things, and would just give out sexual favors for people to vote their way. So that has a place in history, as that's what it originated as, and they still call it lobbying, though that in itself has been illegalized. But anyway, back to the idea of when somebody says something in power, because that's the influence of the people at the top. When somebody in power, or who has a lot of influence, or who is seen as having a lot of influence or integrity or whatever, people listen to them. People will inherently start to follow, or will become empowered by the things that they say. So if you were to be in power, and I can give a lot of examples. The easiest one is always going to be Adolf Hitler, because he was a very charismatic leader, though he was horribly evil. He influenced his people to become very similar to him, at least in justifying what he was saying to them, and they started to believe. They started to follow his ideologies because it fixed a lot of their problems. Besides, it was like it made their problems seem less by comparison, and it also was given as a scapegoat. So it was blatant lies and manipulation and genocide, which is inexcusable, though it was effective in what he did. And that's the best example you can give because, one, everyone knows his name, everyone knows what he did, and everyone knows how he did it, though not necessarily the specifics. Um, Even I don't know all the specifics because it is a big political thing, and a lot of people say he was just a puppet, but that's mostly conspiracy theories. And once you have that, it gets all muddled. But one of the things he did was he changed the culture of the people. He changed how the people thought about problems and how to implement solutions. So what he did was he divided the people, and he said, okay, we are superior, which people really like to hear, by the way. We are superior. They are not only inferior to us, but they are also what is ruining our economy. They're ruining us as a people. They're shallowing the gene pool with their dirty genes. They're bringing crime and they're bringing moral, debauchery. Pretty much, they're evil. They are evil, and if we get rid of them or we harm them, pretty much to the point of oblivion, then they will be gone, and we will prosper much more heartily than if we don't. They will be the destruction of the world. Much like some people believe that homosexuality will end the world, or though that one's more biblical, the other one is more, it's just a dooming factor with vague, insinuating comments about, not really saying how, but that's all. That doesn't matter how you word it because it equates to the same thing. Is we as a people must divide ourselves from them, or we are doomed to be destroyed by them. And the only way to properly divide ourselves is to destroy them. Otherwise, they will come and do it anyway because they are evil and they are inherently trying to destroy us. So what Hitler did was he made it so his people believed that destroying the other groups, the other religious groups and the other genetic lines that were not similar to what he believed was the perfect race, by destroying them, he was ensuring his people's prosperity. And that's wrong. But it was a brilliant tactic for uniting his people and for justifying everything that he was trying to do. So when I say that what he did was amazing, and I do believe what he did, it proved something culturally, socially, that had not really been properly done before, at least not on that scale. He very clearly changed the culture of his people. And that is what I mean by the leadership of a country or the people that have some kind of influence or power over the people can actually change the people. And I've said this before, though maybe not to this level. We have that. Everyone has that potential. So if we do that for the good of the people, as a uniting factor for the world, we can make the world better. But if we divide people, it will always lead down that road. And there is some truth to certain aspects of what people say in fear-mongering or warmongering. There is some truth to it because everyone has personal stories. Everyone has an experience that can feed into that narrative, though it's a very specific, very biased, and very streamlined narrative, where if it's not part of that narrative, it will be quashed very strongly and people won't hear about the opposite sides. It's much like the not confirmation bias. There's a fallacy where you only look for or believe arguments that fit your ideologies or what you want to be true, and it's very easy to ignore what doesn't fit. So when you have poverty, crime, drugs, or impending war, or just depression, lack of jobs, all these things, all you have to do is say in a persuasive way that it is these groups' fault, or even if the issues don't exist, you can say, well, it's going to be these people doing it, or it was these people who did this, even though there's not any proof. And that happened all the time. They were vilified, and they were murdered with joyous glee. And it became a not a witch hunt, because that's more like we're blaming things on you and then just kind of ignoring everything. They were just kind of doing it to everyone. So I guess it might have been like a witch hunt, but it was there's nothing that can compare to it. It was genocide on a mass scale. Genocide is the entirety of it, but I mean, you can kill small group trying to do genocide, but it was successful on a massive scale. So those dividing factors are horrible, and they should never be done. They don't have a place in morality anywhere. You can say or argue safety, public safety, for fear of another group trying to murder you, and that can have truth. You can have truth in that. There can be groups, and there are groups, that are trying to kill indiscriminately or with extreme, bias, trying to kill you. But that does not justify the dividing factors, because, and again, this is, it's really hard to explain this properly without sounding biased, because people will disagree, and when people disagree, they tend to ignore. My belief in morality is where I'm coming from. My belief that morality is not something you can just pick up and put down. Like, otherwise it's a hobby. It's not who you are. Integrity is not something that you can, say, oh, you know what? I feel like I'm going to be, a person of integrity today. You can't do that. So you have to hold everything to the same standard, but people don't do that. They hold things to different standards. It's a natural coping mechanism, because absolutes are very difficult to maintain. That's one of the reasons the Westboro Baptist Church is so hated, is because they have an absolute moral ideology, and their ideology is massively destructive and harmful, but they themselves hold everyone to that same standard. So in that way, they have integrity. It's just that they're holding their integrity to the same kind of level that Hitler held towards his own thing. Is no, you're not. And even though he wasn't very hypocritical, he actually really was. Though, 5 or 6 of his close people that he kept alive because they helped him, versus the 6 million that he killed of just that persuasion. So he was a hypocrite. But the Westboro Baptist Church is a much more tiny example, so they have less examples of where, oh, this person's not Christian, but he donated to our cause, so we'll like him. I've never heard of any of them doing that. It was always, you were either the most extreme or you were against us. So that was probably not the best example, but you understand where I'm coming from. Is absolute morality is not always, or absolute integrity is not always, for one, it's not always easy, and two, it's not always the right thing to do, because reality does not cater to your moral ideologies. Rorschach in Watchmen is a good example of absolute integrity. Do not, what did he say? It's do not compromise even in the face of Armageddon, is pretty much what his argument was. And while I don't believe that's the best way to handle every situation, I do understand what it means to have that level of integrity of, I will not compromise my person, my being, for the easy way out. If you do wrong, I will face oblivion to make sure that wrong is righted, or to at least try. And it's a really, really hard concept for a lot of people to either accept or even believe is remotely right, because it's so extreme. It's like the Jedi thing is only Sith Lords work in absolutes. It's like it's a simplification, because an absolute is almost always situationally ignorant. But when it comes to integrity is not an isolated ideology thing. It's not something that is completely isolated. It is a filter. It is a belief system that you use to judge everything. And you must use analytical judgment with that kind of ideology. And that's another thing that people fail to see, is they say, okay, it's an absolute. I won't steal. I won't kill anybody. I won't do this. Though when I use that ideology, in a real life situation, I will not be able to fully analyze a situation before responding. So if I see somebody pull out a weapon and charge at me, what do I do? Do I defend myself? Yes, that would be the most logical course of action because I don't know what's going on. Better to take the cautious approach than to just assume that, oh, they're probably just running by me to go cut some cake or, whatever, or shoot a deer or something. I don't know what kind of weapon they have. But you must still maintain that form of integrity. I won't just say, oh, I think he's a danger, therefore I'm going to stab him. I'm still going to at least try to understand. And I know that a lot of people don't think that, oh, they're in my house. I see them stealing my stuff. They are an evil, bad person. I must stop them. In that way, you can analyze the situation. But if you see a dark figure somewhere outside and you're outside also, you shouldn't assume that they're a bad person because you are also out there. There are a lot of complexities to each situation that need to be addressed, and you don't necessarily lose your integrity because you are preparing for a potential threat, but still respond to each situation fairly. So let me try to give an example. I've had a landlord that was mugged either 2 or 3 times. And one of them, he said, was in broad daylight next to his car. Somebody just walked up to his car and mugged him. I don't remember if he said he had a knife or a gun. He had a weapon of some kind. So what he wanted to do was buy a taser. And he's like, okay, that is preparing for a potential bad situation. And you can still go into each situation and not just tase anyone that walks up to you. It gives you more leeway, more choices. And that's good. You can have that. But if you were to say, I got mugged twice over here, so if anyone walks up to me ever, I'm going to tase them. That is a extreme approach, and that is not taking each situation fairly. So you become fearful and you become judgmental. It's like he looked like this, or he acted like this, or he was wearing this, so anyone who looks or wears or sounds like this, I will deem an immediate threat. That is a very easy way of becoming a bigot, of becoming fearful and spreading your ignorance to your actions and not just your internal monologue. Because everyone is a little bit racist. Everyone has a bias. I have a bias towards my ex-wife. Anyone who looks like my ex-wife, I get agitated, or I become, anxious, or I become stressed, very, very stressed. So I have that, and I have to deal with that pretty much for the rest of my life or until I get over that. But I don't change my actions based off of that. I will not act out against somebody who does that. There are serial killers that do. They get shunned by a girl and then they start killing people that look like their girlfriend over and over again. That's the extreme example, but it happens. People get stuck in this bias, and people can do it all the time. Oh, somebody robbed my house. All them, whatever, insert X nationality or criminals. It's really easy to fall into that. So I know I did an overarching thing about, the big stuff and then the little stuff, but your integrity is something that you should not be able to be manipulated internally or, through your own mind to fit your agenda. And that's another problem I have with this. There's people that they say they have integrity and they're just lying beyond anyone's comprehension. I know too many people right now, personally. I know several people that will kill you and will, I think I've actually mentioned this before, they will befriend you, lie to you, rob you, kill you, and defecate on your corpse, and then laugh and run away and be completely and unquestionably happy about what they've done because they got something from it. And I know people that would do that, and I know at least one of them who has actually killed people. And I tried getting him sent to, I already mentioned this. I tried getting him sent to jail. I didn't have any proof. And I'm pretty sure they killed another one of my friends, which I am extremely unhappy about. And I know I can't word this properly in a video, and I'm not trying to get in on that, but I'm pretty sure another one of my friends is dead because of them, and because they're not responding to anything, and they're gone. And the last thing they said to me was a phone call saying that that person did something to them, and then that they had to go and they would call me back, and then they never did, and it's been several months, and I don't... See, I keep bringing this up and it keeps messing me up. That's why I haven't made any other videos about it. But, so I'm pretty sure one of my friends is dead again. And by again, I mean another of my friends. So, there are people like that are just the worst people in the world. And I believe that that kind of mentality exists and is common, especially with people that aspire to have power. And anyone who has the ability to lie unapologetically and who will defend that lie, regardless of any kind of proof against them or regardless of anything, they do it for their own agenda. Their lies might be part of a larger plan, whether they get caught or not. Maybe getting caught was part of their plan, I don't know. But there are people in power, both sides, Democrats and Republicans, and in the media, that will lie because it doesn't matter if they get caught, because their lies will spread anyway and will cause there to be a cultural shift in a bad way for them. And a lot of the people that are doing it really well, you don't even know what's happening because you normally see them as the victim. It's like, yeah, they lied, but now look at how much they've been attacked. Look how many people hate them, when they really they become deified by the people that agree with them. Like Manson still has followers, cult followers that will do anything for him. Manson. And there's just, no matter how horrible of a person you are, you will have people that will just believe you or who will aspire to be like you, and they shouldn't. There are so few people in this world that I have no empathy for. I have empathy for everybody, and I try very hard to have empathy for the people that I dislike, such as my ex-wife or the person that probably murdered my friend. I can't anymore. I don't have empathy for them. I don't care about them. I really, really hope that they stop doing everything. Like, I would really, really be happy if they apologized and tried to make what they did right by, going to the police and admitting that everything they did and, just doing that. They're never going to, and they will die eventually, never apologizing. I'm sure of that 100%, because they're sociopaths or psychopaths, depending on how you want to define them. But people in politics have that too. There's people with great political power or financial power that are the same kind of person. Maybe not as bloodthirsty or maybe not as egregiously violent or antagonistic, but their ability to twist their morality or their supposed integrity to fit their agendas and to be able to bring other people under their influence is a really, really bad thing. It's a separating force. It's a polarizing force that it makes the people that disagree with them try to be better, though they fail because they become entrenched in this warfare. But it's then the people that do agree with them become bigots or become biased in some way, and they become even more problematic. And the contrast between saying, you are a terrible person and you are Hitler, you can't do that. You can't just say you are like Hitler. But what you can do, and what you should do at the very least, is explain, like if you have to use that example, is explain that what you are doing or what you have done in the past is in the same strain of, not on the same scale, and maybe not for the same reasons, but is in the same, it has the same premise. It has the same potential. It just doesn't have like the what's the word? Momentum. It doesn't have the momentum. It doesn't have the force of it. But it can eventually. If our country becomes a racist, bigoted, dividing, warmongering country, which it kind of is already warmongering a little bit, because we are declaring war on a lot of people. We have in the past, and we're the only country to ever nuke another country. though a lot of people would say that was justified, and I don't say anything about that. But it's just the United States has a history of being self-aggrandizing, pompous, very egotistical, and the people within are generally seen as the same strain. Though we're all human, we're not that different from the other countries. We just have a different culture. So if you bring somebody else here and raise them as in the United States, they'll have this culture, not theirs. So it's not genetic; it's just cultural. But there is truth in the fear of other countries or other people trying to hurt us, but that is not what our leaders are supposed to promote. They're not supposed to promote that fear, because promoting the fear is in itself it's a detrimental factor within our culture, because what it does is it divides us as a people and prevents us from, well, it unifies us against something. And that's not what true unification is, because once that something is gone, we'll fall apart again. So all you're doing really is destroying whatever this other thing is, and then you don't have a scapegoat anymore. And what do you do after that? What was Hitler going to do after the Jews were gone? You know what he did? He started expanding. It's like, it's not just the Jews, it's also these people and the gays, and just anyone that was, this or this, fit this description or didn't fit this description. What happens when he only had that left? There was going to be more and more and more dissent after that, because you don't have a scapegoat anymore when things don't get better. So it doesn't work. Saying, okay, these people are dangerous. Some of them can be dangerous. Other countries want to destroy, like North Korea, they're dangerous. They're mostly seen as a joke, but they kind of are dangerous. I mean, they have a government, whether it's inept or not, that is actively trying to destroy the rest of the world, pretty much. And they're trying to get nukes, and they're trying to get missiles, and they're trying a whole bunch of stuff. They're just kind of backwards about it. But that doesn't mean they're not dangerous. But that also doesn't justify us trying to just nuke them either. So you can't just say, okay, all of North Korea is evil, or all of Afghanistan is evil. You can't do that. I know people that would want to glass the entire country, both of them, just without a second. If I had the button, I'd press it. That kind of person. You can't do that. It's a simplifying, dehumanizing factor. So what I'm trying to explain is, when the leadership of a country starts doing that to its people, saying we should think this way, we should act this way, they are less than us, they are dangerous, they are all monsters. That is not how leadership works. At least it shouldn't. When that happens, bad things follow. And it's a bad precedent, for one thing. It's a bad precedent. It's a bad kind of moral thing to begin with. It doesn't show good character. And the reason I'm bringing this up, actually, the article I just read, really stupid article, actually. I mean, it's not as bad as some, but it didn't have a lot of facts in it. Disneyland-bound British Muslim family barred from flight to U.S. It didn't really have a lot of facts in it. It really didn't have a lot of explanation of why anything happened, or it was really short. It was a really short article. It's like a page long, and it has an ad right here, so it's even less than a page long. There's really no explanation in it. There's no arguments in it besides, this is what happened, and then this is what the guy said. And then it says this person's responding to it, and then it brings up Donald Trump. And, because they weren't allowed in the United States, it's like, oh, it was probably because the United States is racist now. And that was what the person said. And it's not necessarily what was the person writing the article was. It's a quote. Widespread condemnation and blah, blah, blah. So that in itself doesn't really say anything. Comments, crazy stupid. Like, you have lack of real information in the article, which is fine, because it's just saying what happened. And then the comments are just extrapolating on nothing and being really racist. Okay, this one saying the U.S. and its embassy reserves the right to whom they want to allow onto our soil. And that's pretty much true, though you still have to have grounds for it. And so, okay, that one's fine. That one's just like, whatever. It's more of a side issue than what it is. Muhammad is traveling with his brother and 9 children to Disneyland, but for some reason they're leaving all the wives and mothers at home. Okay, so this one's just bringing about the cultural divide. Even if all U.S. persons thought all Muslims were terrorists, that doesn't explain why the British immigration officials in the UK airport prevented them from flying to the US. So that's the thing, is it was in the UK, it wasn't in the United States. So the argument that the United States is involved, well, it might be true. There's no connection whatsoever in the article. So you have to extrapolate from somewhere other than that. You can't say that. So that one's fair. Let's see. Again, the media isn't telling the entire story. Trump didn't say no Muslims allowed in the country. He did, so I don't know why that was there. But that's just a person that's trying to... See, again, the media isn't telling... that's true. Whoever wrote this article doesn't have all the information. And that's fair. It's either something that they just didn't have the information to, or they just didn't put it in. So that's a true statement. But when you start pulling out that it's immediately anti-Trump, that's what the person said. Person said that, not the whole thing. So I don't know why. That's not the main issue. Okay. According to the article, the man bases his claim of discrimination on the fact that he sometimes wears Islamic dress, whatever that is. But now, on the date of this incident, would the airline have known that he and his family are Muslims? I don't understand this argument. The damage is already done by putting this out there without first gathering all pertinent details. That's true. If you don't have all the information, you should say you don't have all the information, though it's kind of clear in the article that all the information isn't present. When you start quoting people and the people are involved in it, part of the people affected by it, you have to take that with a grain of salt and the bias that it will obviously have. If people feel discriminated against, they're going to call, hey, I've been discriminated against, especially when they're talking to the media. Grow a pair, Mahmoud. Rather than wailing against the U.S. and its attempts to protect itself, you should be wailing against your cowardly Islamic terrorist brother who made your life difficult. Where did that come from? Is his brother a known terrorist? Is it possible at all that this guy frequents a troublesome mosque or befriends some radical? I think they're trying to defend the idea that he should have been barred from the country. Political correctness will be our downfall. These are weird comments. There was one person that commented, and I don't see his comment here anymore, but the whole thing that he put down was, I don't know why I don't see it anymore. It might have been deleted. Oh, is it this it? I think I have to expand it. Okay, I don't see it anymore. They flat out said, it might not have been actually on this article, but it was a very similar article, saying all Muslims should be killed because I don't care. Like, humans have no rights. As long as it protects me, I don't care if you have to kill 1 million people. And I don't know why I can't find the comment. I don't think it was on this article, actually. But that was one of the reasons I made this video as well, is there are apathetic people that are only out for themselves and who actually believe that believe that as long as it benefits them, me, you, whoever's speaking, that anything is justified, no matter what it is. You can take a baby, rip its head off, throw it over there, and knock a thing over so you can reach a soda or whatever. No matter how horrendous it is, the only thing stopping them is the trouble they might get into if they do it. Now, I've met a few people that were kind of like that. One person said he would watch me die and would be joyous because I bothered him. That was in real life. That was one of my roommates. It was terrifying, but he was also annoying as heck. But there are people that are just, they have no empathy whatsoever. None. Those people are terrifying. When they get power, it's even worse, because now they actually do that. I knew the small amount of power that guy had. He screwed over as many people as he could. He ended up getting beaten up by some skinheads. Not that I enjoy his pain, but the irony of it was he was trying to be a skinhead and they attacked him, which was really weird, but I found the irony funny. But he kind of looked like he didn't look like a skinhead. He looked like what's the, not King Henry, what's the Prince Charles? The guy that joined the military. He looked like him. Like, why can't I remember his name? But anyway, there are people that are bad and should never be given power whatsoever. There are people that strive to have power that should be given power because they're working towards a better world. but there's also people that, you don't know. So what I try to do is find somebody that has a unifying idea and a logical or at least fair argument for why it should be attempted, whether it's possible, plausible, or just potential, like low potential of working. It's better than not trying at all. So those are the kind of people I try to work for or with. And it's hard to find people like that because a lot of the times you'll agree with some of it, but then you find that one thing that's like really bad. And it's like, I love this and equality and this and this and this, but you know what? Darn them Jews. And you're like, darn it. I was really looking forward to working with you. And I had one of my old landlords. He was creative. He was very, very charismatic, very, very, running around, very leadership-esque. He was racist, like so racist. And he wasn't aware of it. He was just, I know we lived in a really bad neighborhood that was predominantly African-American, and it really, really was a bad neighborhood, so all the stereotypes were there. Really high population density, high crime rate. Our apartment was, or boarding house technically, was broken into several times. And it was really, really bad. But my landlord was so racist. And he defended it. Like, I know this is getting a little off topic, but when I was writing a story for him, like he asked me, like, here are the characters, here's this, we're going to work on this together. I partnered with him for a while. And I wrote 12 episodes, I believe. Full episodes of what we were going to work on. He wanted to introduce a new character for skits. He thought it was really, really funny, and he was telling me about it. And the character was going to be an extremely dumb, extremely, not money-grubbing, but get-rich-quick kind of, it's like he's just there for the joke. His character was supposed to be a joke. So he had no intelligence, he had no, redeeming qualities whatsoever. And he was obnoxious, he was annoying, and he was white. But his name was Tigger the Nigger, and I really don't like using that word, but that's what he called the character. And I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, no, don't worry, he's white. And I was like, wait, what? That doesn't make it better. That you're literally calling him the derogatory stereotype of a black person that is, it's a derogatory insult towards them. And you're forcing all of the stereotypes associated with that onto that person, that making them white doesn't fix that. And he was trying to say that I was being politically correct. Like, you can't be that politically correct. And I was like, well, yeah, The Simpsons can do something kind of like that, or South Park can do something kind of like that. You want me, I am not that good of a writer. I can't pull off what they do. But you're asking me to put my name on something that I believe is just horribly racist. And he's like, no, it's not racist. It's funny. And I said, no, I'm not writing that character, and I'm not putting my name on anything if he's going to be in it. Even if, like, he wanted to do his own thing, it's like he wanted to do the skits anyway on his own. It's like, okay, but if you put my name on it, I'm quitting, and I am just cutting all contact with you. He's like, fine, whatever. Because I'm not going to associate myself with that kind of thing. He's like, there's a level of political correctness, and then there's just flat-out bigotry. And that's what it was. It was spreading a negative stereotype. And that was my belief, and that was his belief. He believed he was doing fine. It wasn't racist at all. It was fine. And it was the way he worded the character. And I was trying to understand it. I was like, that is just racist. Like, every time I tried to think about it, it's like, that is just really, really racist. So imagine that as president. It's like, we can make these laws or we can make these things, and it hurts the culture of the people. Like, you start making, like, people in power that start saying things, other people are going to be empowered to say the same kind of stuff that they've been silent about for a long time. And, once things start to spread around, it gets a lot worse. Then you start getting controversy and whatever. But, okay, my voice is giving out, and this is almost 40 minutes long. I was not expecting it to be this long. So, anyway, the whole concept of this is when somebody's in power, or somebody has some kind of influence and they're trying, like anywhere in media, like if the Simpsons just flat out went after one race or one nationality or religion, and they just relentlessly went after it, that would be bad. Because they do it everyone all the time, just like South Park and Family Guy and all those things. You can argue that those things are bad, but you can also say at least they're not trying to make people racist, or at least they're not trying to make people bias against a certain group. If you have somebody in power that is, that is going to be really, really bad. So I know this got derailed pretty badly, and I apologize for that, but I wanted to get the information out, and it's really hard to get out without doing that, especially for me. I always jump around, but that's it for now. I'm not going to be here for a couple days, so I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that I explained myself properly, and I hope to see you all in the next video, and peace.